Commissioner Oliver,
Present.
Commissioner Davidson,
Here.
Commissioner Wilson,
I can tell you.
Here.
Commissioner Boyd,
Here.
Commissioner McMurray,
Here.
Commissioner Gage,
Here.
Chairman Dodd.
Here. Vice Chair Wilson, do you minutes?
Yes, sir. I have reviewed the minutes from our January meeting. I find them to be in order, and without objection, I move for their approval.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Thanks, guys. We have no public comments signed up for tonight, so we'll be able to move on into Byron Cumby's Health and Ed report. Hello, Byron. Before you start, Vice Chair Wilson reminded me what a good job you did at our commission last month.
Excellent.
Articulating the history of the Health and Ed department.
Thank you for that.
So
We're very
gratifying.
proud of our history with the county, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak on it.
Yeah, we forget how significant that department is.
I heard from some citizens too, they really enjoyed it.
Oh, wow. Thank you for letting me know.
Who invited, did Trey, were you? Thank you for doing it. Good
Yeah,
start.
He also suggested my jacket, my coat for the evening, so.
Good taste.
I wanted to make sure you guys got the report. I didn't know, I kind of got a message from Rachel late today. I didn't know if I cut it.
We have your
Fantastic.
protect, promote, and improve.
Great. So, we have that there for you, our January numbers, and as you see in the green column, to protect, we have our communicable disease encounters, immunizations, and environmental health inspections. Center column to promote, we have our health education outreach, our community participation, diabetes outreach, and then our vital records administration and issuance. And then on the far right column to improve, we have our primary care, our clinical encounters. And, you know, just starting off the year strong there, everything looks good with those numbers. Seasonal respiratory illnesses are still circulating, and after 4 weeks of a decline in Tennessee, we did see it kind of level out last week. So the rate in our region in Mid-Cumberland is still considered moderate, and there are 2 classes above that, so we like where we're at. Our COVID-19 status in Rutherford County remains low, according to the CDC's hospital admission metric. So that's a positive look there. We still continue to offer testing, COVID-19 testing to the public by appointment, Monday through Friday from 8 to 10, 1 to 3. We'll schedule those appointments to get you in, usually same day. We want to let everyone know and remind them the federal government has reopened the test kits by mail, so they can call 1-800-232-0233 or log into covidtests.gov to get those test kits and have those available if one of their families should become ill. Tennessee Department of Health also has a community support hotline to take questions about COVID or the COVID vaccine, and that's at 615-770-6940. We do offer the COVID vaccine. We have the Moderna vaccine, and then we continue to stock the Pfizer vaccine for pediatric patients, 6 and under. RSV continues to decline. It does appear that we did hit our seasonal peak with RSV in the late fall. RSV vaccines are available by appointment. We suggest anyone, adults especially, talk to your primary care doctor and see if that would be in your best interest to get that. As far as the flu goes, as mentioned, flu-like illnesses have leveled out after 4 weeks of decline. Our region is in the moderate range. Flu shots are free and available on a walk-in basis in our clinics from 8 to 10 and 1 to 3 Monday through Friday, so you don't need an appointment for flu shots. Flu season often extends from October to as late as May, so we still want to get the word out there. There's still a couple months left in the flu season that's expected. And thanks to a great suggestion from Commissioner Oliver and Chairman Dodd at our last meeting, we did reach out to our county PIO, Lisa Kay, and she posted our flu information on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Nextdoor, all in the same day. So we appreciate their cooperation there. We have scheduled some mental health first aid classes at Rutherford County Health Department in Murfreesboro for 2024. Our first will be May, and that's 13th and 14th, and those are morning classes. It's really an 8-hour course, so we've broken it up into 2 days to kind of facilitate people's schedule. So in May, it's on the 13th and 14th. In July, it's on the 30th and 31st. And then in October on the 17th and 18th. And anyone interested can just reach out to us. We'll get you scheduled for that as well. The first week of April, April 1st through 5th, is National Public Health Week. And we're looking for ways to acknowledge that and recognize that. So expect more in next month's report. We'll have something pinned down. And then finally, look for a save the date coming soon about our community baby shower. It'll be in June this year. We'd like to thank our partners at United Way. They've already provided us with a great number of baby bags packed with supplies. There'll be more to come. Of course, we do a lot more than just giveaways at this thing. We offer classes, courses, informationals, infant CPR, Safe Sleep, and information about our programs like WIC and so forth that really benefit our community. So exciting news for that we've pinned down a date. We'll set out a save the date to all parties and all our partners. And Mr. Chairman, that does conclude our report.
Thank you. Any questions?
I do have a question,
Yes,
actually.
ma'am.
So I did not know until your presentation last month, thank you very much for that the health department did dental.
Yes.
So, I guess I see a lot on social media where people are like, I don't have dental insurance and I have this tooth pain, and so where are the primary locations? How do we get people connected to you that don't have insurance?
Yes, so we do dental at our Murfreesboro office,
Okay.
and that is specifically and ideally for people without health insurance.
Is this adults only?
This is adults and children. We help people get TennCare if they need information about TennCare. But if they are uninsured or have acute pain, things like that, we will try to address that immediately with them. And I appreciate the opportunity to get the word out about that, because this is a new initiative by Governor Lee last spring to expand dental care access to adults. And so that includes TennCare, but it also includes expanding access to adults in our clinics who are uninsured. Previously, we could only do emergency extractions.
Okay.
But now we can also do preventive care and fillings and things of that nature. And it's a full-service dental clinic. We have x-rays, we have a fantastic dentist there and a dental assistant. So just reach out for that. If someone is having acute pain, they will assess that and then probably schedule an actual extraction or something later on, but they can address it immediately.
And is that on a sliding scale as well?
Correct, thank you for that. That is on a sliding fee scale based on income, and that's the income you declare. And then, there are charges, but they're always kept proportionate to a person's means.
Okay.
And those are the same hours as the health department?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. We do appointments we're open from 8 to 4:30. We'll schedule dental from about 8 to 3.
So I heard you can also help, if they have questions, help them understand how to get involved with a state healthcare program. You can answer questions
That's
as well.
right, that's right.
I mean, that's terrific. You can take care of an immediate need, something that's going on, or help assist them in the future. A lot of folks just don't understand what the first step is to trying to do that, whether it be technology or however. So you guys will actually help them with that.
We pride
fabulous.
ourselves on being a community resource, and if we can't help
fantastic.
you ourselves, we can usually, send you to the appropriate parties.
That is amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for bringing it up, Laura.
Just a report, update on the flu season. There's been some communication on TV this week about children's deaths as it relates to the flu season. How are we doing?
Yes, I actually have some numbers there. I believe we have had, let me see. I believe we have had 5 infant deaths statewide. Nationwide, we're around 100. I don't want to speculate, but just so you have some idea of scope. The infants in particular are especially vulnerable to flu, so that's why 6 months and older, we do recommend that flu shot.
And is there just one strain or is there more?
There are typically a couple circulating, but there's usually 1 or 2 dominant strains, and that's how they formulate the flu shots. They'll kind of see what's going on in the rest of the world and formulate.
Flu season is still with us.
Yes, sir.
How are we doing in the county? Average or?
We are considered moderate. There are 2. There's other parts of our state that are being hit a little more than we are. So we kind of like where we're at now. We hope this is the last time, before the end of the season.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
My granddaughter just got over it. It was really awful. She's 11, and it was a good week and a couple days. And I've had the flu. We've all kind of had the flu. I have never seen.
I don't, because I get my flu back.
I have never seen a child that literally, when her nose was clogged and she would blow, there was blood clots. Called the doctor because I was freaking out. I didn't know what that was. And so I had to keep her out of school another day until I could get that under control. But the fever reached scary high. They gave her liquid Tamiflu, I think, and all the other things we could give her, and it just had to run its course. So I wasn't sure, I don't know what strain, at what point do I get her a flu shot? And since I don't know what strain, does it cover all of them?
Right, it usually covers the top 2 or 4 dominant strains. Last check, and I wish I had the accurate information, but the H1N1 was the dominant strain at the time. But it is good to know that they were able to get started on the antivirals, because they are out there and they can make the actual progression of the illness a lot less severe.
Well, I'm just, those poor babies, because I saw firsthand how it goes.
Glad she's improved.
Yeah.
I had some questions, please. I was looking at your data here under Protect, and it almost looks like your current year is equal to or surpassed where your previous year was when you're looking at STD, AIDS prevention, and tuberculosis. So is that correct? Because we're just in February.
Well, that's last year, January. Those previous year total numbers,
When it says year to date?
yes, they're probably January to date as well.
So that previous 282 is January to date for last year, and not year to
Right.
date for last year?
Correct.
Okay.
And that's a little misleading, because that
Yeah,
does,
because I was just like, wow.
yeah.
Yeah.
Normally that last column will be comprehensive for the years.
Gotcha.
So-
And another question I had is relative to your COVID reporting. Is it only persons that are hospitalized? Because I personally know like 5 people that have had COVID within the last week and a half, and I'm just like, whoa, is it going back up or what? So
Yes.
they're only counting hospital admissions. They're not really looking at the population as.
Correct.
Oh.
That's the hospital admission metric that we report on. And,
Okay.
What about,
Because it's out there.
yes, it is.
I'm like, stay away. That's why when I came in here, I'm like, ooh, it's kind of stuffy. And he teased me for sitting on this side, but I'm just like, okay, let's get some space.
what about the urgent care report? Are they required to report those numbers as well? Because you get a lot of people who may not go to the ER or the hospitals.
Yes.
Because for me, I'm in the healthcare setting as well, so I know upper respiratory viruses and infections have been on the high, and then had a lot of people hospitalized for pneumonia. So I've been telling people, don't take that chance. If you don't feel that good, you need to go in, because pneumonia is on the rise right now.
That's right. Anything with your lungs, you probably want to go somewhere with the capacity to do x-rays or things of that nature and really investigate. The ER report to the Essence, and that database is reflected in numbers of influenza-like illnesses. But as far as walk-in clinics and things of that nature, I wouldn't consider that those are actually counted.
Good point.
And then you have the people that are doing the home test,
Right.
so they're not going anywhere. My son had it, and he said 30 people at his company were out with COVID.
That's what I'm saying. The numbers are not real.
Right.
To say
Because
that-
you got the home test that you
That's what I'm
ordered,
saying.
so
really
yeah.
to give a true
Surprisingly
reflection of it.
surprisingly enough, wastewater testing has become one of the more accurate ways of seeing where
Interesting.
where outbreaks are and things of that nature. Yeah. And it's interesting because it provides a certain amount of anonymity to people, but they can also use it to track, the use of opiates and things like that. So it's a field of public health that is really kind of burgeoning.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the report.
So moved.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Carrish. Thanks, Mr. Wood. Community care minutes are on your iPad and been published. I will, just one highlight, it looks like the United Church Homes is delaying sending us updated financials, and we can't get our financials together, so is that anything going on there?
Well, I'd like to make one comment. You know, the board got released United Church Homes.
Correct.
And so there was some issues still trying to get some year-end reports done in some timely manner. So I do know they contracted with Joe Hastings and Associates, I believe is their name, and I think they're still working through that. We've also had some issues trying to make sure they got what they needed. Because we bill them monthly for some phone services and things like that, and so I do believe they're still working through that, not just here, but also with some of the things we're needing as well.
Okay, very good. So those are there.
Just a request, I've had a request or two that we look at this report, but maybe it's time to have the administrator come in, or a member of the board come in, and so that we can look at their face and talk to them about performance and kind of what's going on out there. Could that be possible?
Yes, it is, and they have hired Ms. Gerke, and we are self-managed now with an administrator that's employed by the county. United Church Home has been released, so it sounds like we'll try to do that as soon as next month if she's up to speed. I'll let their board respond if they need 45 days. We'll do it in April.
Are we able to, at some point, maybe get a tour? Facility?
Absolutely. Sure. The last one, geez, when they had their open house, if anybody went, when they opened their new wing and exposed that, that's been months, almost a year ago. So I'll make inquiries on both of those events and see what. Now, we could tie those together. I've heard historically the committee would meet out there. We talked about this several months ago. Perhaps we meet out there and have their director, so we have a look at the building prior to the meeting, conduct our business inside a conference room out there. I think IT here said they could make that happen. There's no veterans here unless you guys remember.
Oh, yeah. We would go out there in December at Christmas time and.
Would you have your meeting?
Yes, we did, and then we'd also have a little time with the patients.
Residents.
Yeah, residents, thank you. We would have a little time with the residents, and they were a blessing just to be out there. So those guys really love company.
Well, then let's discuss, would we prefer to have our meeting out there in any given month, and we'll do it soon, if it's not March, then April, or would you prefer we stick to business, have their administrator come in, talk business, and then set up a tour after that?
Chairman, if I may, because we're about to enter a heavy budget season, I would suggest, I'd like to have her come in and talk to us here. But I'd rather wait till after passing the budget to go out there, because the conversations will be a little bit, they're gonna build up each month between now and passing the budget. So I would say, can we have her come in and answer questions at the table, then go make the visit after July?
Yeah.
That would be my suggestion, if that's okay with everyone.
Good.
It'd be good to meet her.
Yeah, absolutely. So I will invite Ms. Gerke here, and the chairman of their board is Mayor Joe Carr, so he may wish to join too. Thanks for that feedback. And the next item, the special projects report, we're going to delay a month. We transferred unused funds to other projects last month, and those projects were part of our commission meeting. And so Michael will have all those balances reconciled for our March meeting. Which leads us to Dr. Sullivan, the school board.
Were we supposed to have any of this on our iPad?
We don't have it. Should be easy. So
So it's just on here?
it's just on here. That's our
easy.
typical, what we put every time. So, hey Commissioner, so
Yes, sir.
I hope everyone's doing well. So just a couple quick things we do not have any budget amendments this time. So that's why you don't have any on SharePoint. So that's a nice change. The next amendments that I would anticipate coming through are we have extra TISA revenue that we'll have to accept at some point, and then we'll look to do acceptance of summer school money for K-5. That's gonna be dependent on what is allocated from the governor, so that may be closer to May, and then we'll have cleanup amendment towards the end of the year, so that's what we're looking at, budget amendment. Board of Education update. So right now, we've had all of our principal budget meetings. We're right, just like all of you, we have such a huge budget, we're right in the middle of starting. We actually started in December. So we've had individual meetings with every one of our 50 principals about their budget requests. We started with our departments today. So then each department in the school system, whether it's special education, maintenance, transportation, all those, they then have to prepare a budget. So they've submitted those to us, and now we're meeting with the actual, whether it's the assistant superintendent for academics or human resources or instruction. That's where we've started our meetings. So outside of that, I hope that we continue to have some uneventful Board of Education meetings, which is where we've been recently. And so hopefully we can survive a primary season and keep it that way. Because that's something we are dealing with definitely.
When's our joint meeting?
May, glad you brought that up. 28th, I believe. Yes, May 28th.
Remind me, whose shop is it at this year?
I think it's here from now on because it's the joint between and then budget.
With budget,
meetings at the same
I know
time.
we've
That's
met
what
at your
they-
place
Yeah.
and sometimes in the past.
We've got it scheduled to be in there.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. That's
Yep.
May 28th, joint meeting at 5:30 in the courthouse.
To hit on it, I think we're gonna discuss budgetary things a little bit closer to the end. Enrollment update. So a couple of things, I'll give you the official update out of our education information system, which we call EIS, which is reported to the state. To end the 6th reporting period, which had been the beginning of February, we were at 50,898, just K through 12. If you include pre-K as of today, oh, it kicked me out, hold on. I think we're at 51,007 something, so let me look real quick. 51,749. Our enrollment dropped a little bit because we have kids that graduate early in December, but we're still funded for those students. So we receive funding for them for the whole year. What is a little bit unique is that I was just kind of looking at that, some of the report is that we're becoming more transient. I don't think that's, with our shift in population, a huge surprise, but we had a net gain of about 1,000 students. Net gain's the wrong word. We had 1,000 students turnover that worked with us the month before. We only technically added 89 kids, but we had 1,000 withdrawal. And so we added basically 1,100 kids. So about 2% of our entire student population turned over in the month of December. And so we're seeing a huge change just in our mobility between our school system. I'm sure Metro Nashville is seeing that as well.
1,000 cycled out.
1,000 cycled out, which means if we gained 89 kids, roughly 1,100 cycled in. And so that's
Pretty chaotic, isn't it?
it is. Yes, and for all kinds of different reasons. It is definitely chaotic. The other part that was different is that we have added 314, so not total, just we have 314 new students that are English language students since January 1st. So we may have had some EL students who left during that time, but we have 314 new EL students, and 214 of those 314 are newcomers, so no English. And so newcomers, that it's a changing demographic of our student body.
How are we on filling those positions? We've been chasing that for as long as I've been a part of this committee.
ESL teachers.
Yes.
Better than anticipated. Our problem is, I think our commission approved 17 new ESL positions back in September. We're well outside of approved ratio right now. I think we're at 1 to 40 right now. State requirements 1 to 35. So we were doing some of our budget conversations today and trying to keep the budget as low as possible with our new students coming in requiring ESL teacher. We have 25 ESL teachers just to get to where we are today. No telling what it is. Of course, our students need that support, but it is also extremely hard when you have your kindergarten through fifth grade classes that need new teachers, but we're putting every resource into English as a second language right now, just about. So that's where.
So you remember, we had that amendment that we had to, just to make sure we were getting up to the
Yep.
state required rate, so we're still behind.
Well, we're doing pretty decent overall. We have 21 total openings certified as of last Thursday. In a district of 3,600 certified teachers, only have 21 openings. I feel very confident about where we are. So, doing pretty good overall.
Progress.
We're doing, yes,
Yeah.
we were in the hundreds last year, so to have 21, we're doing pretty good. Very
And
good.
the 1-to-40 ratio is the best I've heard in quite a while. But it's not, and that's a.
Yes, but it's getting better. It's better than what it was, but it's
Well,
finding.
and that's one of the
teachers.
conversations for as we get through this agenda here towards the end, is just the anticipation of the numbers and the specific teacher needs coming
Yeah.
up. You know, a language teacher is very specific, and where do we need to go in increasing those positions, but you may not be able to decrease somewhere else. What do we look, so that's the kind of discussions I'm hoping to kind of finish up with, is looking at that. You know how a budget goes, we're in 3 to 4 months away from this, and everyone's trying to anticipate what we think a full year is gonna need.
Yeah, and that is, without getting too far into that, that's one of our problems with TISA. It's very similar to BEP, is that we're funded a year in the arrears. And so we've added all of the students from last year, but we're funding them strictly on local tax funding, because you don't get TISA funding until the year after they've enrolled. So all of our new English language learning students, they need a classroom teacher, they need all the traditional teachers, but they also need English as a second language teacher. And we're funding those all in the local tax base. So, and that's all I have enrollment up there.
Let me ask a question, relative to that population. Where could translators come into play? So maybe you can't have an ESL person, but maybe you can have a support person that as a translator
Yeah.
in the classroom.
Great.
Are we looking at those type of?
Great question. So the requirement by the state board is to have 1 to 35 for teachers. And so that is the only thing they outline. All of our translating services, any translator that we have in the district, the state does not recognize EAs to meet that ratio. And so all of that is funded locally. It's not funded.
Well, I'm not even talking about ratio, I'm just
Oh,
talking about
just trying to
support,
help. Yes.
support for the student.
With funding, I'd love to do it, but that's our issue right now. Is right
Gotcha.
now, it's do I put that funding towards an EA or do I put it towards teacher?
Gotcha.
And we're putting it towards teachers just to meet that minimum.
Gotcha, okay.
We have gotten quite a few from Metro, so our salary increase last year helped. I'm nervous about what districts will do this year, because we're not gonna be in the position to do, I think we did a 4%, 5%, 5%. We're not gonna be in the ability to do that, so that's my concern moving forward.
I think to Hope's comment, do we happen to have many bilingual EAs or teachers?
So
Say
if-
bilingual, that's not, I mean, there's
Yes.
68 languages spoken, so it's bilingual.
Yes, we do. At least one in just about every school, and some schools have.
Which is just a good fortune, but it's not a plan.
No. And our principals all asked for it, and they asked for English as a second language EA, and I was like, I'd love to give it to you, but it's not required. You're required to have a teacher, so you're getting a teacher. So,
Thank you.
yep.
I don't know that needs a motion, but thank you for the
Yep.
update, for the information, and
I did have another question.
by all means.
Basically, just from looking at your board meeting and the safety training, I thought there was some discussion about using county resources as opposed to outsourcing it. Did something change with that?
They
Cause I
will
know.
be for August 6th, so they have a big one planned for August 6th that we're working on.
Okay.
Yes, we have multiple portions of that planned. Weren't able to do the one in March, and so they're planning to do the next one starting in August, and then do a second one for all, as we call it, Stop the Bleed. They're gonna do all Stop the Bleed training for our staff as well, so.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
not for this semester,
I'm
but
clear
moving
about that.
forward, yes.
Okay, great, thank you.
Actually, I believe I heard there's a fairly robust plan
Yes, there is.
that Patty's been working on a kit to get
Has
into each classroom. Is that right?
Correct.
So that's tremendous progress. It's wonderful to
Big
hear
lot of
that we're moving forward in that direction. And I guess a lot of that kit's
Chris
based on
Clark.
things that were seen at the
Yes.
Stop the Bleed presentation.
And working with Sheriff's Department and Chris Clark as well. I mean, that's meeting all the time. All the time.
So if I could just
Yes, ma'am.
ask a random question. I wasn't aware of this program. It came up obviously in a neighborhood page, and I actually had to tag my school board rep because I don't have a lot of knowledge, but it was misinformation And so she kind of helped us get it clear. But could you just explain a little bit about the Atlas program?
Yep.
Because we actually had people saying, are you aware that our bus drivers are like going and picking up kids in other places? And I did not have a clue.
Yep. So Atlas is what we call our federal McKinney-Vento. So to protect homeless students, and to protect homeless students, they have certain rights that fall with that. Part of that is for that school year alone, that they are able to stay at whatever school that they were zoned for.
Okay.
So they reimburse us for that.
Okay.
But is it uncommon for us to have a student or two that we go pick up in Clarksville? No, it's not.
That is
It
what
is-
she said,
it is
and I
not.
was like, wow, that's amazing, but I
Yeah.
didn't have a clue about
Yeah,
this.
well, I will tell you, becoming the director of schools last year, when they told me we need to make the snow call by 4 o'clock, I'm like, for what reason do we have to make the snow call by 4 o'clock? So that was, last year, I made a decision we were gonna open, and then within 10 minutes said, no, we're going 2 hours late. And it got blasted a little bit for that, rightfully so, but, so from that, I said, why did we make the decision at 4? Like, what are we doing? And it was, yeah, I blame him too. It was, because we have buses that are going for McKinney-Vento, that are going 3 or 4 districts away. And I said, if there's ever a question from this point, we just say, we're not doing transportation for those buses for that day. That gives us an hour and a half. So, yeah, but you're exactly right, and we're reimbursed for it. Is it what's best for the student? I'm not necessarily sure that sitting on a bus 4 hours a day, but if it keeps them in there where they feel safe and secure in learning, then
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
I had no real knowledge
Yeah.
of this program, and like you, maybe that's not the best, but hey, if that's where they feel
That's what
comfortable and
parents
safe,
want,
and if that's the only normal thing in their
Yeah.
lives, then absolutely, let's
and
do
it's just for
that.
that school year.
I'll tell you what, briefly, since you've opened the door up, we had this conversation when Kristen Swan came from the United Way to kind of present programs. Since you've opened up Atlas, you brought up one of the things that's part of that program, but the other things that they're doing are also servicing those kids that are in need. Can you talk a little bit about that since the door's
We do
open?
lunch and weekend bags that go home with the students. Where we also have clothing at each of our schools for them. We do community scholarships, we have parenting class, so just about anything and everything that you could possibly need. And I know that gets into that it's not the school system's job, sometimes we're the only spot that a parent knows to go to get resources.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And that's
If
one of the
there's
things that we had
anything
talked
can
about
do.
getting involved in
Yeah.
was,
Yeah.
if people are aware of the programs, it's just like with what Kristen said, if you're aware of the different programs going on, folks can contribute to it.
Exactly.
Or they can volunteer to help, they can get, but people just don't know it's happening. It's hard to get information like that out, so I'm glad you brought that up today.
Access to it, not just contribute to the persons in need can get the access.
And
to
we-
it and get
we-
the information.
Yes,
We ended
yes.
last year with over 2,000 students.
That's what I was gonna ask, how many kids?
Wow.
So you're looking 4% of our student population. So a lot of it's not your traditional homeless. Yes, you have living in a car, but you also have hotels and then people that are doubled up without a sense of income. And so we have that in some of our more affluent schools. Actually, Stewart Street and Siegel are some of our highest, and you wouldn't expect that because people are double, tripled up in households.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's been several months. Would the committee like if it's been several months we had Chris out, maybe just an update and just to get more information out between the Atlas program that we're doing with the schools and what United Way's do. It's been a while, it's been almost a year, I think, since we've had that discussion. Would y'all like to have that again, a presentation? I just like getting information on how people can get involved. And
Exactly,
if you
yeah.
remember, we also learned about being able to spread the word about how to get help. Discreet help with being able just to do, I think 211 was one of the numbers, and ways that they can find assistance immediately, like tonight for needs. So this committee is a big part of what we do. Remember, we talked about, we're bridging health and education. They're blurring together now more than they ever have before because of community needs. So, it's right inside what we're all responsible for looking out for.
What's your action step to have United Way come back in and update on their program?
I would like to do that in conjunction
We have
with
an Atlas liaison out.
with having the Atlas liaison come and figure out just ways to get information. I think that would be great to combine the two, because it's community-based. With us, obviously the Rutherford County has a Board of Education, but the commission are charged with taking care of all the folks. So it'd be good to get this information out between you guys and the United Way, so we're looking at the whole county and all people. So thank you for bringing that up, everybody. We get bogged down in budgets and forget about we're trying to look out for how to spread the word on this stuff as well.
Right, and that was part of my issue, was when it came up in the page, it was like someone was appalled, are you aware that bus drivers are from Laverne or driving to Murfreesboro? And I was like, I don't know anything about about this, let me reach out. And then, you know, once you give them the actual information, then it's like, now shame on you for not being nice about this. This is what's really going on, and it's a necessity. So I feel like we need to make sure everyone is aware that these are programs for these children, and that's our job to take care of everybody. So, thank you. I didn't know a whole lot about it.
Thanks for that
It's
update.
sad, but everybody doesn't like kids. I mean, it's true. Everybody doesn't like kids, and they'll see something going on and think it's a disjustice. You got
Well,
kids.
that's where we step in and we make sure they know, I don't care if you like it or not, we're taking care of these children.
Well, we'll work that into our upcoming
Yeah,
agendas.
You might like to introduce Dr. Halford next.
And so next, so the next item on our agenda is 2 charter schools will have an opportunity to educate us on what they do, and so I'll let, if you want to stay up here, and
I think we got Dr. Halford first. So.
absolutely, perfect.
So we talk a lot about academics, and we have a ton to celebrate with academics. We have 20 reward schools out of our 47 that test, which is the highest level you can be. So most we've ever had, level 5 schools, we have the most we've ever had. So we're really doing a nice job educationally, so thank you all for your support. But the other part that you can't necessarily quantify with statistics is just as important. And I had the honor of working with Dr. Halford, being over curriculum instruction and opening Rocky Fork, and we just continue to excel and just soar and everything. And she is a team of one for a district our size to have a fine arts specialist who does everything herself and supports all 51,000 kids in that. So, Dr. Halford, you want to come on up?
Thank you.
Yeah.
And sorry I confused it. This is not a charter school person.
Dr.
This is-
Halford.
Dr. Halford is a Board of Education.
Correct.
Yes, and Dr. Sullivan said that we don't have a lot of statistics, so I'm going to give you a
so
sheet
glad
of
you brought
statistics. You know,
Yes,
I'll
I like
always have some data for you.
You always
I
do.
like visualizations.
Thank you all for allowing me some time tonight. I won't take up too much of your time. I want to thank Commissioner Wilson for the invitation to come and speak. What we've found over the past few years is that the arts in our schools are kind of a best kept secret. Not just the things we offer to students, but the quality of what the students are producing. And we don't want it to be a secret. We want to make sure you all know. So I'm here just to give you a few updates and explain some of the great things going on in the arts programs in our schools. You see here the number 342. That's the number of our performing arts students that earned mid-state status this year in band, orchestra, choir, and theater. That's not a small number. We are among the top performing districts in the state for regional honors. 81 of those students have gone on to all state honors. And particularly in choir, we have been the top performing district in the mid-state for over a decade. So we have lots and lots to celebrate with the quality that our students are performing. You see also for our visual arts, 12 of our students earned national honors this year and the Scholastic Art Awards. The Gold Key winners, the top winners, just finished a show at Cheekwood. They were able to show their works for the past month, and they're going to go on to an even larger competition at the national level if they were the Gold Key winners. Speaking of visual art, save the dates, March 16th through 31st. Our district art show is going to be held at the Frist Museum in Nashville. Murfreesboro City Schools will also be showing at the same time, so it'll truly be a Rutherford County celebration there. And I'll make sure to send Commissioner Wilson the tickets to go and see that if you like. It's sure to be wonderful. 70% is the percentage of our students K-12 who are enrolled in at least one arts course. So you see there that this is not a small niche group of students that we're serving. The arts programs actually serve the majority of our students in Rutherford County School. Every elementary student gets music and art on a regular basis. And then of course in middle and high school, we start offering more choice programs such as band, orchestra, dance, choir, visual art, of course, theater. We offer many, many programs for our students to be a part of, and 70% are a part of those. This next part, Dr. Sullivan spoke to the academic success of our school district, and you see here 92%, that's the percentage of our schools where you find that students who are enrolled in the arts perform better in math, that's ELA, in reading, than the general student population. So if you look at any of our schools, 92% of them, those students who are enrolled in the arts, they have a higher proficiency in reading than the general population. And that number is 79% of our schools, again, the great majority in math. So not only is this something that's not hurting our students, it's certainly not a distraction to our students. There seems to be a link here. We see that nationally, but we can see it here in our Rutherford County school system, that our students who are in the arts are performing well academically. And lastly, I want to let you all know about 2 national awards that we're proud to have here in Rutherford County. The first is the National Association of Music Merchants annually gives out the best communities for music education. That's a national award. We have received it for 5 consecutive years. And what's wonderful about that award, it comes to us in Rutherford County schools, but it's called Best Communities. So when we apply for this award, we have to answer questions not only about what we offer in our schools, but also how our community supports us. What organizations in our community offer us support? How are our elected officials, our district leadership supporting the arts? And you see here that that support has earned us that national award for 5 consecutive years. So thank you all for your support in that. And then we recently received a Music for All Advocacy and Action Award, also a national organization. And that award was for community involvement, and all the members of our community, from district leadership to elected officials to community members, who came together last year to ensure that our students were able to have a performance venue at Jazz Fest, which has been a part of our community for 25 years strong, and we made sure that that continued last year. That gains national recognition with this award. So we're very excited about that. Last on here, you see this QR code. This is just a link to our calendar. We keep a district calendar where you can see all of the upcoming theater productions, which there are a lot this month. There's 1 week in March that I just tell my husband I'm not going to be home because I'm at theater productions. But lots coming up, lots of concerts from our music coming up, obviously the visual art show coming up at the Frisk. So you can check out that QR code. And check out all the things coming up. We would love to have you all at any of our events.
Little Mermaid, you go to that one, Jimmy?
I get them all.
I'm a little speechless. This is just a stunning report. 92% of the students, the reading proficiency. And I mean, you talk about theater, everyone knows around here with Center for the Arts and other things, this is Rutherford County is becoming a real place that's welcoming for arts and all kinds of arts. Choir, art, theater, and I mean, to have opportunities like that for our students, this is very encouraging to me. That's just what a great report. I didn't realize it was that high.
Dr. Helford, thank you so much for all you do. My hats off to the teachers as well.
Absolutely.
That are instructed in these areas. I had the opportunity to be at Laverne Middle School and to hear their band and their dance. I mean, it was just, I couldn't believe there were middle schoolers, you know?
Yeah.
So the level of excellence that the teachers, you know.
It adds so much value to their
Yeah, to their,
educational experience, our community. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you for that.
And the OT those teachers have to put in to do it.
It's okay.
And the expertise it takes to take a 6th grade band kid and turn them into a producing 8th grader.
Exactly.
I would
Great
say,
question.
I started off in 6th grade. I played saxophone, drums, and piano. And, you know, Phil won't agree, but, you know, it's what made me smart.
No,
The
seriously.
jury's still out on some of those comments. Commissioner Murray.
No,
Phil's a percussionist, so it doesn't count.
But I will, I was able to MC the Black History event last week at Siegel, and this is my 3rd year, well, attending. The work those students put in, and it's just mind-blowing. And they support each other, and that auditorium is full. And so that just shows the hard work that you all are doing, and I appreciate you.
I'm not trying to make this a love fest, but I'm going to say one more thing. As Nashville really changes the identity of what Nashville was, because you got a lot of business community and things like that, Rutherford County is becoming a arts absolute center. It has, a lot of that has shifted into our county, and I'm very proud to see that, especially when you see the results in education. Chairman Phillips was asking about scholarships. obviously with these types of numbers, leading equal coefficient, that's gotta, and the arts provide these opportunities for these kids. Most go on to do things other than arts, but because they have learned all the skills, soft skills on how to go about projects and how to, at a young age, manage yourself at the college level, those skills take these kids on. Can you talk a little bit about the scholarships? I know there's tons.
Yes, and I don't have a number on that, and we need to start doing a better job of tracking that, but we do have students every year earning a great number of scholarships, and yes, they're going, some of them for music and art, but some of them are going into recording industry or into pre-med or anything else, and they're getting their scholarship because they're playing oboe in the band, and so they can continue that throughout their life, and it sets them up for success in anything they do. We have students who have gone to Juilliard, we have students who have gone to Curtis. The Nashville Symphony just hired the youngest principal tuba player ever, who came out of Stewart's Creek High School, went to Juilliard, and now he's coming home. So we have a lot of really, really talented students who do a lot of great things and earn money to do it.
I like the Love Fest.
And you do it well, and you do a great job of it. I miss working with Lindsay. Being over curriculum instruction, you got to work with Dr. Alford all the time, and now I only get to see her.
Yeah, and you know, I speak to a lot of the arts teachers, and all of them appreciate Dr. Halford, what you put into it. You pour yourself in. And also, I'm just going to say this one last thing. The teachers here, this is, I think, true of our whole county. The people of Rutherford County, the reason we're so successful with such minimal dollars at times, it seems, is because we have people that care about this county, and they care about Rutherford County, and they make sacrifices to work those late hours and create those programs and have those extracurricular things for students. And they're Rutherford Countyans through and through. And the band directors we have, they come here from other counties because Rutherford County, the word is out that we support this type of education. And I mean, we just don't talk about this enough. I'm glad at a commission level we're hearing about these things, because when we're looking at money, we got to remember what the fight is for and how we're trying to find budgets. It's to fund the future of these kids, man. And you're giving them a great chance of offering these programs. So thank you very much for what you do.
Thank you all so much for your time.
Thank you. Thanks, Jim. Good news. Next, item E, Springs Empower Academy Public Charter School update. Principal Shane Wickwire is with us tonight. And Jimmy, will you stay up here too?
Okay. Or Mr. McCann, do you want to?
If
Fine right there.
So please introduce yourself and then have a seat.
Well, I'm Shane Wickwire, and I've met some of you.
Hi there,
nice to meet you.
You can come up here, Mr.
And,
McCann.
I'm a new face, I think, to this committee.
I'm sure.
It's just allergies.
I like that jacket too. You got that. I'll get that. I am very healthy right now. But thank you for inviting me here.
Thanks, Mr. McCann. Wait too, if you don't mind.
Yes, thank you.
Yep.
Come right here. Mr. McCann is our school choice charter school coordinator. So I know back in November, it was mentioned that this was an extra position. It's not an extra or new position. This position's been around since at least 2022. And Mr. McCann is going to be our first person to do this. I'm saying it publicly everywhere on TV that I can. He is going to be our first person to actually do this role 2 years in a row. So I've got lots of faith in you, Mr. McCann.
And we appreciate all the support we've received from Jeff and from Rutherford County School District. It's been wonderful from this committee as well. I've got a couple of folks here who've been very helpful with getting Empower Academy going, with Sarah and Aaron Bowman, that they're helping with everything with PR, and Aaron does everything. So as you know, we're just getting underway. Please remind me to mention the arts. I appreciated what Dr. Halford had to say.
And I'll remind you to introduce yourself as well.
Okay.
Get
I'll
your name
I'll
out
do
to
that
the
again. I
public.
will. Thank you. But don't forget to tell me
Yeah,
to talk about the arts, because I'm excited about that too. I'm Shane Wickwire. I am the new principal for Empower Academy through Springs Charter School in Smyrna. That's where we're going to be, serving that community there. And we're just getting underway. We will start in August of 2024. We'll open our doors. So I want to talk a little bit about some of the updates with us, a little bit about the charter world, so everyone understands. I know we talk about budgets here at this committee, and there are a lot of questions out there about charter and whatnot, so I just want to cover a few points, not take up too much of your time. Charters are new to this area, and but they're not new to Tennessee. There are quite a few charters throughout Tennessee. I think they're serving over 40,000 students across the state, supporting a lot of students that have challenges. We serve all students. They're not handpicked or anything like that. We're a public school with public school funds serving the entire community. In this area, charters are new, and Rutherford County does a great job of serving their community. But as you know, you live in the community, it's growing rapidly, right? There's building going on everywhere. And that means a lot of influx of students, and not a whole lot of new schools are being built. So charters help offset that a little bit, and this charter is sponsored through Rutherford County, and they've been a wonderful partner helping us get established and getting started. Which leads me to one of the new exciting announcements is our partnership with the Boys and Girls Club of Smyrna. We are just getting that established, but that's going to be a great place for us to start. And the reason we're starting there is because the land we're in the process of purchasing on Enon Springs in Smyrna, it's going to take a couple of years for our new building to get built there. As you know, the process is long with building projects. So in the meantime, we needed a place to be temporarily, and the Boys and Girls Club is a perfect fit for us. It's already a school. It's empty during the day. They only get students to school in the afternoon. So it's a perfect place for us, great playground, and their enrollment in the afternoon program has been declining, so it's a great partnership. This helps feed students to them, and it helps support us with a wonderful environment for students to learn. And we're going to have 10 classrooms there to start. Eventually we'll be K through 8, but we're going to start K through 5 there. And we had almost 500 families interested in enrolling with us. So we were able to open up the lottery process. Earlier this month, we've been taking applications since December 1st, and we were able to enroll 250 students initially. And that, in the first day, we filled up all those seats, and the families who received a seat for their child, they have until the 1st of April to lock that in. So some are shopping around, checking out other things. Dr. Sullivan mentioned transient students. Charters experience that quite often because it's kind of shopping around and I don't like what's happening at this school, so I'm going to try this one, and if it's not perfect, then I'll go to the next one. So we see that quite often. And I don't expect this area to be too much different. I will say that the schools that I've been the principal of in the charter world have done really well with that. We build up a strong community culture, and we have a lot of success, which encourages families to stay and stick around. And in our world, it's a large charter where I come from. We have a lot of different academies, a lot of different programs, and my program does really well with that. So I expect to build that culture here, even though we're starting off brand new. A couple weeks ago, I was at the Boys and Girls Club for a parent night, and we had almost 80 families show up, asking questions, touring the site, and they're really happy with that selection on where they're going to be. So that was exciting. And if you don't know Springs Charter Schools, we are very hands-on, personalized. We have a lot of success with students, but we always say it might be perfect for your children. It may be not perfect for everybody. That's why it's great to have parent choice. The more choices you have out there, and I know there's a couple other charters coming in, it's just great for families. It's great for Rutherford County, and it will be, I think we're going to be a great partner with Rutherford County School Board. I also want to emphasize that a charter does not take from district funding. Sometimes there's misnomers out there about where we get our money from. we have to fund our building projects, our staffing, everything ourselves. And as a startup, we have to get loans and then pay those back. So, and grant money. So our students, it's still ADA that we collect from the state, but we're not getting anything from the district. It's not changing, budgetary wise for them. In fact, 3% of our budget goes to Rutherford County. And that's not a whole lot, but it is something that Rutherford County gets that, they're not having to spend and put into what we're doing, with our building projects, with our staffing, our personnel, with safety and security. Those things are all on us to put into it. And some of the larger charters come in and they have a lot of money and they can do things. We're coming into Tennessee and we have to find our own funding and establish everything. So that's where our money comes from. And then as we have students, we collect ADA like a school district does. And we service our personnel, our curriculum, our technology, and we pay back those loans. Just so you know a little bit about how that works. And I wanted to not forget art. We work hard to teach the standards and focus on student achievement. We also work hard on establishing a community culture. We do a lot with the arts as well, so that's not going to change when we come to Smyrna and in Rutherford County. We have a strong arts program. We believe in it. I was glad to hear Dr. Halford talk about the arts, because when cuts come, and in the education world, you guys know you're working with budget, we have an ebb and flow, and when the cuts come, it's usually arts is one of the first things to go. So it's great to hear a robust arts program. I hope you continue that. We love it too. As far as the fine arts, musical theater, I heard some of that talk about. My school has an incredible, I put a lot of energy into athletics and musical theater. And we have productions a couple times a year, and we want to establish that here. I'm actually in one of the productions. I get the chance to sing and dance and do that and be part of that with the kids too. We're going to be doing Aladdin in the spring, and I get to be the Sultan, Jasmine's father, and do that. It's great to connect with the kids. When I'm on the plane going back and forth, I'm studying my lines and making sure I'm ready for that. But
It's good to be Sultan.
It is good. It's good to be the Sultan. But it's just an example of what I'm excited about bringing to this community. It's just a wonderful environment to all the families I've met, all the people we're working with, so supportive. And we're just really appreciative of the opportunity to serve the community in this area. I know not everybody's as excited as I am, but please ask questions, share your concerns as they come up, and I'd be happy to sit down with any of you and talk about it, or whether it's officially in a committee meeting or on the side. We're here to answer your questions.
Thank you. I think we will open this up for questions. The only thing I ask as chair is hold your funding and budgetary questions to the end, because I'd like to wrap up with a more in-depth conversation about funding with Michael and Jimmy. So if you would abide by that, talk about scholastics and other things, then we'll wrap up with funding. Carl, go.
Your relationship with the Boys and Girls Club.
Yeah.
I found that pretty, it seems like a great concept coming to, like you said, you're using the building when they're not.
Right.
You got snow days, you're out of school, but the kids are at the Boys and Girls Club on those days. In your other locations, have you had relationships like that with Boys and Girls Club?
Well, that's a great question. Thank you for asking that. The charter world, it's interesting. A lot of charters will start up in buildings, and sometimes all they do is rent. They never own facilities. Where we're from, we have some that we purchase, some that we build, but a lot of times we have partnerships, and we have had Boys and Girls Club with Springs Charter School and great partnerships with them. Some churches that we share. In fact, the Boys and Girls Club sent some representatives out last week to check out one of those schools where we share with the church to see how it's done, because they haven't done this before. And they were super pleased on how everything functions, how the school supports the church supports the school. There's a lot of collaboration, and synergy involved with working together, so it's a win-win for both parties. But yeah, Boys and Girls Club, YMCA's we've worked with and really had great relationships.
Where are you housed? Your headquarters, where's your headquarters of your system?
Springs is in Temecula, California, and going national. And Tennessee will be the first charter outside of California that we'll be in. Soon we're starting in Texas, and we've got a charter going in Georgia that'll be opening soon, and they're already looking at some other states as well. So this is the first foray outside of California where it's been very successful. And it's important for you to know with that, it's the Tennessee community we're serving, and the community and the values of this area that are important. And that's why I'm super excited to come to Tennessee as well and bring my family here, and house shopping and purchasing soon and moving over and becoming part of this community too, because it is a wonderful place to be.
Just a couple questions.
Sure.
The first one is, you already mentioned that you're into lottery. So you're already into that process. I want to
Yes.
talk a little bit about that in just a second.
Okay.
So the potential for the building you're building, how many students would that hopefully, once it's fully built out, be able to take?
All right, the building, which is going to be on Enon Springs in Smyrna, when it's done, should be able to hold 800 students, K through 8, potentially 900, but 800 was our target. And hopefully that's in 2 years, that'll be ready for that, and we can probably start K-8 there. But we'll see where we're at, you know, one bridge at a time, we'll cross.
So
the
you were up to
K-8s.
500 families already.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I mean, I'm saying it doesn't sound like, well, we have a lot of kids moving in. I mean, that's a big number for going in there. So I guess the applications stay in a process. Will they get, the people that didn't get in, they're part of the lottery? I guess if you open up those seats, I'm just curious because I don't know. Do they get first shot unless, or you open it way back up and if there's 1,200 people, there's a new lottery? How does it work? Because here's the question I'm going to get to. Several of us will be in Laverne with a League of Women Voters forum on Monday. One of the questions that's going to be asked for us is explaining how charter schools will be enrolling students. Will they accept anyone that applies, or will there be requirements that students must meet? So I kind of went in because it kind of goes into explaining the lottery, both here and your next step. And just in enrolling students, do you accept anyone that applies? But I think it is, the answer is yes, is what I've heard. It's simply when it hits the maximum number, you enter the lottery process. Can you just talk a little bit about that? People want to know how the selection works.
Yes, I'd love to talk about that. Thanks for asking that. So the lottery works, at the moment, if we have 250 students we can seat. The moment we hit 251 on the wait list, it goes into a lottery. So anybody can apply within the grades that we're serving, and then it's randomly drawn. There's no hand selection. It's completely random. We use a program called Scribbles. We've been working with Jeff McCann on that. And so it's completely fair. And it doles out the students, and we call them up, it fills the grades, and then once we're full, like we are, then those families go on a wait list again, randomly put into that list, and then as others apply, they go onto that list. Siblings have a higher priority, so if one sibling got in and the other didn't, then they're at the top of that list for those grades. That's actually a question I get a lot. You know, one got in, one didn't, you know, that's going to be challenging, so they get the higher priority. They'll go to the front of the line, so to speak. And I think I mentioned by April 1st, they have to declare whether they want that seat for their child, or they're going to withdraw that, and then the next person for that grade level would get that seat. And we'd call that family and let them know, hey, a seat became available. Would you like to attend Empower Academy next year? And yes or no.
All right, what is y'all's involvement with this? Because I saw him look at you. What is your involvement with
I
all with
actually
this?
managed the entire application process, and I ran the lotteries for them and everything. Okay. And it has to be done independently, or at least it has to be certified by an independent accounting firm, just to make sure that it's fair. But yes, I handled the whole application process for them.
Is that
Just like our traditional school, so I want to give him, sorry to interrupt, I want to give Power credit because they ran just like a traditional Rutherford County school.
They did. They went through our same system. They didn't have to do that. The other charter school did not, and They did, they went through our
You're
system.
hitting on my next question, is we're kind of have some oversight of this lottery process, so it's, I mean, we can even discuss it right here.
Sure.
Is that, you're only involved if we hold the charter?
Correct.
So
And
any,
we technically don't have to be involved in, they wanted us to, so we were glad to help.
Sure.
The other charter's fully independent, even though they're ours.
so any charters now and in the future that we would choose not to approve, if they were to get in the state, I'm just curious, does that involvement, do we have some, we're completely out of even that particular process? So,
Well-
and I'm asking for our committee, because if they're in our county, we're gonna have conversations with, because we're looking out for all the students, regardless if they're public school system or any other.
Right. Well, if our board approves a charter application, we become known as their authorizer, which means we have oversight in monitoring them and guiding them through the process of opening. If we don't approve them, they can appeal to the State Charter Commission. State Charter Commission can say, okay, we will approve them, but we'll serve as their authorizer. And then it's out of our hands, like a current charter is right now in our district that we don't have any oversight in. Or they could say, no, you are gonna be their authorizer.
Okay, this is for the future. It's just, it seems like I would want to encourage us to have some kind of involvement in some way with any child being educated in this county. As far as a county commission, we're accountable for all the kids, no matter what they choose. Private school, homeschooling, they're all, so just, that's why I'm trying to ask these questions is who do we have to reach out to actually keep a hold on this? Because it's getting more difficult if we're losing communication with these kids, so that's why I'm asking that question.
Gentlemen, if you don't mind real quick.
Please.
So there's two aspects. We won't hit the funding aspect, but we'll get to that later. The other portion of it is academics and accountability. So because we're the authorizer, we will take accountability with no, all charter schools have their own board. Our board is monitored, but it's a 10-year contract. So unless there's performance issues, their day-to-day operations, what their board chooses to do, that doesn't come before the commission, doesn't come before our school board, that's totally in their purview. And so we wouldn't authorize a charter unless we were confident that they were gonna perform, because we have, I hate to say, we have a reputation in our kids' academic performance hits on it. And so we have some that we've not approved because we weren't confident in their performance.
Their test scores will be in, are
They're
your
part of my
scores.
evaluation personally.
And that will be whatever's board approved, is that's going in.
Correct.
Anything state approved, that's not in our numbers, and that's want to be, everybody be clear on that, just so really us and everyone that is actually gonna watch this meeting, that they know what's going on.
So let's see if anybody else has
Yeah,
to come back around.
sure.
Quick question.
Can you come back?
Hot
I'm
topic
actually done with those.
today around the state, around the whole country is security. Security.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you mentioned that. Security at our Springs campuses has been better than the local schools for the most part. So we put in the top-notch security. So at the Boys and Girls Club, since that's where we're gonna be, we've already talked with the Boys and Girls Club of what they have there and what we will add to that to make sure that our students are very secure is always a top priority. And we've had families come and ask those very questions right out of the gate on, what's the security gonna be like? We'll have an SRO, we're gonna have a buzzer system, which they don't presently have there. They have a security camera system. We're gonna upgrade that. We'll look at perimeter fencing and make sure that's all up to code, possibly add to that. The windows, there's security film that we can add that on some windows, like the front windows, would be bulletproof, on the others at least shatterproof. So we make sure we have all of that in place so that we have a high awareness of security, not only to make the community coming into us feel secure, but more importantly to keep the students as secure as possible with the craziness of the world and things that can happen. Make sure that no one can come in. We'll have the Raptor system, which Rutherford uses, which means every person who comes in, oh, I'm here to pick up so-and-so, take out their ID, they scan it through, it does a quick scan to see that there's nothing inappropriate going on in the background check. It is a very quick scan, and then we can release the student, verify their identity. So there's a lot of security. So thank you for bringing that up, so I can bring that up too.
What are you guys using for your SRO? Are you using Smyrna Police, or how is that working?
they're gonna work through the county sheriff's department, develop an MOU with them. They've already talked to Patty about that a good bit.
So safety training that we're gonna start in the next school year could be extended to these guys as well, right? Could something be talked about? I'm bringing it up because we're trying to keep everybody
It
safe.
could be, but I'm also very hesitant to start paying for things when we're gonna get into a little bit that we're gonna take a hit. So.
Well, maybe even if they took care of that on their end, but at least to make it available to us. Yeah.
Romeo, looked like you were about
Yeah,
to ask.
no, you're fine. I was just gonna piggyback off the security. Are you all working with the local law enforcement, sheriff's department, Smyrna, in regards to when you build, how they think that should be able to get in and out in case of some type of emergency? Will they have access to the school to get in should something happen, unlike some of our other, so.
Yeah, and that's an excellent question. We do, we're working with the city of Smyrna throughout the whole process, and they sign off on everything. The architectural design of the school, ingress, egress, security. So we're working with the city on that. They sign off on everything, so we've got a great partnership with them. Jared McLeod, I think most of you have met him. You know, he's met with the mayor many times and talked over those concerns with them. So throughout the process, they're involved. And when we're getting to the point when we're actually doing the building and the construction of the site, definitely bring in local law enforcement, make sure everything, any changes, anything new and improved that we can add to it to make sure that everything is the best that it can be. Because we want to be proud of that too, that hey, if you bring your children here, they are going to be in a very safe, secure environment. It's not some run-of-the-mill fly-by-night charter school here today, gone tomorrow, but we're setting up a permanent facility, which is a school to educate your kiddos and keep them safe and secure. So absolutely.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
curious, how long have you been doing this? And what
Personally?
Yes.
I have been in education for over 25 years. I've been in the traditional public school system as a teacher and administrator. I've been in charter for now, this is my 16th year, and I've been a principal for 13 of those years, running various programs. I've done some startup like this, building from the very beginning to taking over some schools that were struggling and help them improve. The school I'm at now, this is year 7, and it started as a brand new site at a church that was sitting empty, no longer had buildings, but didn't have students. It was a perfect opportunity for us to serve that community and bring students in, and as fast as we could have seats available, we were filling in, and my school, not all charters, but my particular charter still has a wait list of 700-800 kiddos waiting to get in, hoping to see, and right now we have about 750 students K-8 where I am. But yeah, I've been in charter for a while.
And performance-wise, outcomes, things of that nature, how have your students fared?
I love that question, thank you, because it gives me a little opportunity to brag a little bit. And to also reiterate the fact that as a charter school, we are accountable. So we are still doing state testing, we're still meeting the standards of the state. So we do state testing, we look at those results, we compare them amongst our programs and to the surrounding schools. I would say Springs Charter has always done well in the county of Riverside. My program, we have, I think, around 35 different programs, from academies to homeschool and hybrids of that nature in Springs throughout 5 different counties. And the last 2 years, my school, which is Bear River, has been #1 in both math and language arts, as well as in loyalty and keeping that high percentage, as I mentioned, of returning families every year. And I'm proud of that fact, but I'm all about what's best for kids. And we might do things a little bit different as our academic approach to instruction, but at the end of the day, we need to be able to show that it works. And I know some charters don't do state testing, they might have their own testing, they might do something different, private schools as well. But I've always been on the philosophy, if we believe what we're doing is best for kids, we ought to be able to show it. And my school also in the city of Menifee does better than the surrounding schools as well. which is what you compare to. Sometimes it's apple and oranges. You know, my school compared to this school, another county over, is a totally different demographic. But comparing to the schools in your general area, you really get a chance to do some comparisons and look at the data and decide what you're doing well and what you're not, what you can work on. But my school has done very well, and I think a lot of that has to do with really building a community, getting to know students, getting to know their families, making sure that we know when things are a little off, that we can tell and we reach out and we have those relationships built in. There's a lot of factors involved, but just taking that extra time to really care about kiddos and not get caught up in the big numbers and supporting a growing community like this, that's where it really becomes important, because you hear, oh, you know, that's 800-900 students, not from Rutherford County going to a charter. Yet, I think the numbers of students going up each year in this area, correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Sullivan, 1,000 or more students a year being added to that. And there aren't schools and new buildings being popped up. They have to go somewhere, right? Sometimes it's in modulars and whatnot, which isn't the greatest thing for students, piling them on school campus. So this helps offset that a little bit by giving them another place to go that the school district doesn't have to worry about funding. And we take those kiddos in and make sure that they're being instructed well and giving parents another choice. They don't just have to go to where they're told within their zip code. They can shop around and see what's best for them. Gives them, you know, a little bit of opportunity to have that freedom of choice and see what's best for their kiddos.
I hear you on that. One of my challenges is, and you mentioned it earlier, about families maybe not liking it and then wanting to go somewhere else. Now, once funding comes to Rutherford County schools, and say for instance, parents doesn't, you know, they decide, you know, I want to go over here to Central, or I want to go, you know, that's Rutherford County schools. The funding for that student is in Rutherford County schools.
Right.
Now, if the funding for that student comes to you, and that family decides to leave, then what happens?
I think it depends on the time that they leave, the amount of times they spent there, because we have different windows of enrollment that will get paid. I think Dr. Sullivan or said earlier that a lot of the students that left in December, they still get funding for the entire year, so it depends on when they leave and how long they stay. So there could be
It's a weighted average.
Yes.
Your funding is based on weighted average. I can answer that.
Okay.
Yeah, well, then are we ready to transition to funding? Because I want
I
Michael to
have
cover the table.
one question and I'm done, I swear.
So the first funding question is going to be, does the money follow the student?
Okay.
So
Okay, so
question
just
will be
hold it.
first.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, I only have one
And
remaining
then I
question.
still had another
Yes,
question.
go ahead, please.
Why Tennessee?
That's a great question. Tennessee was an environment.
And why Rutherford County?
Okay.
You know, just curious.
Looking around what states that they wanted to go to, there was a need. There was a growing number of charters, very charter friendly in Tennessee. So Dr. Hermesmeyer, who began Springs Charter School and is still the superintendent there, we looked at the different states. Tennessee was one of those that looked like an opportunity to expand there. A community where it's charter friendly because of the culture of Tennessee and what they're looking for to support students. This county is expanding rapidly, and I think when she was looking at different counties, Central Tennessee was growing at a rapid rate. She reached out, or some representative reached out to Rutherford County, and it just started the conversation, which was, yes, we'd be very interested in pursuing this, write up a charter. I think we sent one out the first year. There were some things that Rutherford County came back and said, we want this changed or this rewritten, come back next year. We came back the next year and it was approved. But a lot of it has to do with the charter relationship with the state, and then part of the state, the need, and then the sponsorship that you get. Some charters are sponsored through the state. Every state's a little bit different. Through the county, that's how a lot of the charters in California run, through the county. And this is also through Rutherford County. Some run through the city or a specific school district, and some are very small, and they're losing enrollment, so they'll reach out to charters and say, hey, we could use a little bit of support because they get revenue that they generate. and they collect that in different ways. So I hope that answers your question. Like Tennessee.
So, I was doing charter schools at that point, so I know that, Department of Education was asked which districts, for legislators to apply to. Rutherford was specifically mentioned due to fast growth in other areas, and so Rutherford was definitely solicited along with a couple others of these are districts that need to be pro-charter, and that is why we are still getting applications, charter as well.
It's currently 2, right, that you're reviewing?
Only one withdrew.
One withdrew?
But we still have another one, and if you look at other LEAs, there's one that's not like the other, and Rutherford's the one that's not like the other that is still getting applications, so.
So I've got one last question that's non-funded.
If folks still, you good?
I
I
am.
mean, come on up, I know there are two.
No, I'm good.
Phil.
Mine is just last one on enrollment.
Okay.
So.
No, I'm not. I apologize. I had written it down. It was
No,
more.
these are great questions. And
Yeah.
Shane, thank you. You are the first person at the table as a partner to answer these questions. So it's like, it's 15% about Springs and like 85% helping us understand charters. So thank you for being, with your experience clearly in charters, you give a lot to help us with.
But I apologize. I did have one more question.
Sure.
Because I wanted to ask about the curriculum.
Okay.
And it'll align with state curriculum and
Yes.
state standards, state tests and things of that nature. Is that what you're telling me?
That is correct. Absolutely.
That's the way I understood it had to if they're gonna be, because they'll be taking the same test scores as
Right.
us. So this is kind of, that's actually a little bit into my next question. Because because these students, the charters we're getting are all elementary age. Which means that at some point, either 6th grade or 9th grade, they're gonna have to go to our high schools. All right, so we have all of a sudden an issue with these kids that we didn't keep up with the numbers on elementary and middle school, now our high school is like, where'd everybody come from? So I'm curious how that's gonna work. Because if you start someone gets in, they're coming to us. If we don't have a relationship, administrative-wise, with a charter school, how are we keeping up with those numbers that are coming to us? Because you understand, am I saying this right? Because I'm probably overthinking too forward, but they're gonna come into our high schools and they weren't in our system before. So aren't we gonna have a new influx of many more high school students in public system than we had in these others?
Yes, and high school students cost more. That's why you don't.
And the facilities cost more, and they're harder to build because we need bigger lots. So that's what I'm saying is, how are we gonna keep up with those numbers on the ones we're not working with? All right, then I wanna get answers. I just don't wanna be, we're surprised by enough things. We don't need to be surprised by that one. Because right now our high schools are absolutely overcrowded. It's $200 million to build one. What's it gonna be in 5 years? $250 million? It seems, it seems very unsustainable without us getting all this information to know how long we have. And I'm very concerned that public charters helping with elementary and all that is one discussion, but there is no solution into high school. Curriculum is one thing. It sounds like they will be able to go from the 8th grade to our 9th grade to run those tests, but I'm talking about the seat for the students. So, and that's really more of a question for us, and we don't really have one yet. We got to talk about that. You'll know the numbers. You're working together. I'm worried about how many more charters will go down the road if we approve or not. How do we keep up with those numbers? Are we going to have, hundreds of more students a year suddenly come into they've been going to a charter school in Smyrna, but they're going to actually need a seat at Oakland? Am I making sense? Or am I okay?
I think we'll be able to track that into it.
Should be able to. The one charter that's opening in the fall and the one that's applied to open do have intention of stretching through high school at some point down the road. Now, there's no guarantee that'll happen. They don't have the numbers to do it, but that's their plan.
That's
to expand it.
process.
It is.
Yes, and we have high schools where we're at now, and we do hope to eventually expand to high schools down the road too. Our charter was initially written for K-8, but at some point we'd like to expand it. Dr. Sullivan is 100% right. Running a high school, you've got so many different subjects and whatnot. If you're going to do it right, it has to start big. It can't grow. Small high schools really, really do struggle in the charter world. And I have parents ask this of me all the time, will you eventually have a high school? And I say, we hope to. That is the plan down the road. But for now, yes, they will feed directly into the Rutherford County high schools.
The amount of time it's taking us, not only to try to acquire land that's actually suitable, we're having that battle right now. But on top of that, Actually, it takes us so many years from being able to discuss funding to getting it through government and then actually getting doors open. It's a long, long process. So it's just, I'm asking that because I'm trying to think of everything that's going to hurt us and blow us up we don't see coming. We have to be 5 years in advance. We have to be 5 years in advance minimum now on looking at funding, or we can't even get a plan together. So thank you for answering that question, because the way I see it, we do not have a high school answer. We're going to have an influx of students that were not in our elementaries or middle schools. So we just got to be cognizant of that.
Michael?
So then it's really not solving the problems that we have.
Only temporarily.
Aspirating, creating new.
That's
Create new problems.
Michael, if you could pull the chair up. We have to slide down this way. Mike can drag up.
You can sit right here.
Thank you.
You let him sit there, he turned that air down so I can breathe now. I'm gonna die.
So Hope's first question was regarding a student who starts the funds, what transfer.
And I want to touch on several things if that's okay.
Yeah, so just run with it and we'll ask you questions.
So I want to touch on 2 or 3 things that kind of came up. So I want to clarify a couple things and correct a couple things. So first things I want to correct is I have spoken with the sheriff's office. They even stepped out to confirm. As of right now, there is no plans for our sheriff's office to provide an SRO for this school or any charter school. There becomes some liability issues with a non-government entity. There's some funding issues and things like that. But as of today, I'm not saying that wouldn't change in the future, but as of today, there is no position and currently in the budget or in the future one right now to provide an SRO for any charter school, not just this one. We would have to work through several MOUs, some legal requirements and stuff like that. Essentially, you'd be providing for a private entity security services. So I just want to clarify that. Second, you were asking about funding for students. This is going to be the same for both Dr. Sullivan and any school funded through TISA or in the previous BP. So that is not, when Dr. Sullivan reads you a number that's 51,000, whatever that number is up today, is not how he is funded. That is based on an average daily attendance rate, and that number is weighted. And so they pull that snapshot at varying times throughout the year. So to answer this is going to piggyback on your question. So it's going to depend on how many days that student, that family, that student was at that school, and it's based on the weight that the Department of Education applies. And so that being said is, Dr. Sullivan may have a student that starts the first day, if they don't come for the rest of the year, he's not going to get funding for that student, even though it may be in his enrollment number. On the flip side, you know, if your student has perfect attendance, that's going to also change. So that fluctuates daily. And then the state, every March or April, and here lately it's even pushed into May, they send what's called the weighted attendance updates, or it's a big acronym, and essentially it's weighted. And so that is how we share money with the city of Murfreesboro City Schools. But that is going to be weighted based on the type of student who attends there. So that is weighted higher for a special education student, it's weighted higher for ESL. So that being said, it's going to depend on if that type of student that's in one of those qualifying categories was to also come from that charter school into Rutherford County or commercial city. And this is going to piggyback into kind of a blanket statement, and then y'all can ask kind of questions for that. So all of that being said is, I have printed off the state law as it is written today. However, there are several bills in subcommittee and committee. To the best of my knowledge, they're still being talked about today. So this could change. This is straight off Tennessee Code Annotated as of about 30 minutes before the meeting. To clarify a couple things, there will be local money, local paying tax dollars going to this charter school and any charter school directly to them, budgeted in the school's 141 general purpose school fund budget. In addition, there will also be state funds. And I want to read a couple statements just so I'm clear, just so we're all kind of on the level playing field here. It says a local board of education shall allocate to charter schools an amount equal to, and it's going to list 4 things. I'm not going to go into the exact things, but the full detail, but it says a total of state and local generated funds for member students in the charter school for the prior year in alignment with the TISA pursuant to blah, blah, blah. What that essentially means is that they had a prior year enrollment, just like Dr. Sullivan, the Rutherford County Schools is based on prior enrollment at TISA. We have to take that into account on a per pupil basis. The second thing is item B, is the average per pupil local funds received by the district in the current school year above those required by TISA for each member student, of which we do a lot. So a lot of this committee and the commission and the school board held a lot about hold harmless. That did not apply to us. we are well above the required local match, just like we were at BEP. So we would have to allocate a certain percentage of that local match. The third part is it says, this is where we need some clarification from the state, is it says the per state and local funds received by the LEA member students in the charter school in the current school year beyond the prior year's membership. And so that's where we've reached out to the state and asked for clarification, because we're funded on a prior year basis. The state does shore us up in January and then the following few months after that for the health insurance increase that the state is going to absorb. I would assume that would pass on as well, but they have not told us how we're going to estimate that number. And then I'm going to get to the fourth part. It also says all appropriate allocations under federal law and regulations, including but not limited to IEA and some other federal funds. And I think one of the questions we've also reached out to is, when we sign for federal funds for IEA, Title I, things like that, this state law is saying we need to allocate some of those to the charter school. But the problem is, if you treat it like the city of Murfreesboro, they have a direct agreement with the state separate from us. So I'm not sure how that's going to fall in line with federal guidelines within Tennessee, barring some other state. And then it goes on to talk about, it says the LEA shall include as part of its budget pursuant to 49.2203, the per pupil amount of local money it would pass through to the charter schools in the upcoming school year. That's essentially, in layman's terms, saying I have to put that in 141. So you will see this as part of Dr. Sullivan's budget for next year if they're planning on opening in August 2024. There's still some questions we're going to have to work out through summer to get that allocable amount. And the next part I want to point out is it also goes on to say the LEA shall distribute the portion of local funds it expects to receive in no fewer than 9 equal installments to the charter schools in the same manner as state funds are distributed pursuant to TCA, blah, blah, blah. And essentially they're just saying we have to get it 2 in 9 equal installments. We get 10, well technically we get 11 installments of TISA, the last one being divided up into 2 unequal installments in the month of June and July, the way it's divided. But again, they haven't really told us what per pupil amount they want us to go up of, whether that's going to be prior year or current year. And I believe Dr. Sullivan and some of his staff have emailed the state and TDOE, so I don't want to speak for him, but I know we're waiting on a response for that. And then it goes on to say, and these are just some questions too, just so y'all know that we're still trying to research this. It goes on to say that the State Board of Education shall promulgate rules and regulations to provide for the determination of allocation of state and local funds as provided by subsections A through C, which is what I just read you. So when we look at those regulations as they stand today, they actually still reference BEP, is the latest I've seen. Dr. Sullivan can correct me if I'm wrong.
That's correct.
So I think one of the things we're waiting on is for that updated rules and regulations. And so, and I say what I say is I'm not saying I'm for or against, I'm just kind of trying to read the facts as they stand out so that y'all know kind of where we stand and how this is going to be a very interesting year as far as how we budget for that, because I think as they stated there, 500 approximately is what 250 your capacity, but you had 500 families interested, so you're in a lottery system. So we're going to have to look at, do they take that 250 estimate? Is that how we're going to pass on funds? I would.
Can I hit on that a little bit?
Yeah, so I just want to that's kind of as it stands today as TCA, that's my understanding. Dr. Sullivan can correct me if I've misspoke. And I hope that answered your question, Hope, on the average daily attendance.
We're a little unique, and there's not a lot of districts outside of Metro and Nashville that have LEA-sponsored charter schools. You mentioned earlier why I'd encourage us to always support it. Speaking frankly, I'm 100% in agreement. I believe in what Power Springs is going to do. I will tell you from a financial standpoint, I wish we weren't the authorizer. And I'm going to, Michael mentioned it. So we are looking at 2 charter schools we're opening. If you say 250 students, roughly, we're going to be sending about $2.5 million to each school. The hard part for me as the director of schools is that I have to send that up front to where I won't be funded for those students until the next year. And so when we started looking at budgets this year, we have to hit $50,000 for starting teacher salary by 2026. Our goal is 3% this year, just being honest, with a salary increase, and hope to be able to hit 2.5% the next. I'm gonna have to take 1% off to be able to fund Springs and our other one, ACAR, of no fault of their own. It's the way the state law's written. And so I asked our delegation to just sponsor a bill to make it equal. Like we're all fine with it. We just want to play by the same rules. Like if you're gonna fund charter school enrollment up front, then pass me the funds up front. Like for example, they've got several students, and it's great. Their partnership, they've been great to tell us here's where the kids are coming from. So I have, I think 18 or 19 coming from Murfreesboro City Schools that we have to pass that up front. Murfreesboro City Schools isn't gonna send us the funding, that's a year behind, so we're gonna have to send funding for those kids. So we've got about 5 million conservatively that I may not, when we talked to the State Department about this, it was, you have a $500-something million budget, 5 million isn't gonna cut or make or break you, it's less than 1%, which was very, I don't know the right word for it, but
Disrespectful.
it was less than 1%, so basically.
What would make it easier too is if they want to, if the state wants to fund it on a per pupil basis, I have no fault, that makes sense to me. Send it directly to the charter schools, just like Murfreesboro City sends their TIS out. We don't pass through, the only thing we pass on to Murfreesboro City schools is local funds, because we control the local funds. Whereas they get their per pupil allocation from TISA directly to the Murfreesboro City schools. And that may change at the legislature this year. That's why I was saying, as it's written today, this is my understanding of it.
I don't believe anything's happening with it.
I was just trying to be honest, but I think that's gonna be the hard part. And I'm not, this has nothing to do with this school in general. I'm sorry,
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I'm not trying to come off.
No.
I wanna make the point that it is gonna be a very difficult situation to build the budget almost last minute for us, because we'll pass our budget in June. I believe it's the 24th or 6th this year. I can't remember what the Monday is that we pass the budget on. So it'll be a very difficult, we'll be adjusting, I just kind of want to put that out there, adjusting to the last minute.
Is this our first budget year with charter schools?
So we are the only county too, I want to touch on a couple things.
Oh, you're gonna go here?
Well, the other counties that have charter schools, you have Shelby County, Metro Nashville, Knox, and I believe Hamilton has one or two.
One.
And so, but we are the only county audited directly by the comptroller's office. Every one of those counties are audited by a CPA firm. I've done a lot of work at some of the charter schools out of Memphis when I was at the comptroller's office. Like it or not, they play by a different set of rules than we do. I don't know any other way to say it. We're audited on a stiffer basis. Our auditors camp out here for 3 or 4 months in the conference room. They do a great job auditing us. I'll just say that. I think they do a great job, but they don't have a time budget. They stay here for 3 months, if they can stay 6 if they want to. So we're audited on a little differently than say Metro is, or Shelby or Memphis, or name the district out there that you're looking at. We're the largest county in the state that the comptroller's office audits. So all the other 4 largest counties above us that I named are all audited by CPA firms.
So you pay those CPA firms?
The Metro Nashville or Shelby County or
The school system pays for it?
no, the county pays for it.
County.
Yep, and so, like Shelby, Memphis, they have a city school district there, that city would pay for that. So like Murfreesboro City Schools, they're not audited by the comptroller's office, they're audited by Joe Hastings, the same people that audits the city. So I can just tell you from working there, they're less stringent, I don't know any other way to say it, which makes us really have to cross our T's and dot our I's, which we should be doing anyways. I'm not saying that we shouldn't, but it just creates a certain level of more stringent environment, I think is probably the best way to say it. Dr. Sullivan, would you agree?
I would, and I'll tell you what we've looked at internally was just to show the cost. I'll share it here, our board hasn't seen our budget. We plan on doing, of course, a balanced budget again. We may go in and just show as a loss what we're sending to the charter school, and that's what we're gonna be sending, coming out of fund balance. I struggle with saying that on the backs of our employees that they can't get a percentage raise because of the way state law is written. So if we have to go into fund balance, then that is what is sent directly to the charter school until the next year. That might be the approach that we take.
Like I said, the one fix would probably be the legislature sending TISA money directly to.
Which they would if we wanted to authorize it.
That is.
So there's.
But it almost penalizes us for wanting to be a good partner.
I want to get to that in a second. I'm the chairman.
This is gonna, I don't want us to get too far afoot because we may be premature. We are getting in front of this. We're alerting us and some of us who are on budget, hey, this is on the horizon. But some of these answers are gonna be incorrect or speculation till some months later. Is that correct?
I disagree because it's written in state law. There's other districts that are.
Okay, so then we need to
unless it
dispense
changes.
we need to dispense with what may change.
What I read to you is as it stands today.
Okay, so we need to operate under that.
The 2 clarifications that I think I'm looking for, and I've never dealt with this, like I said, because it's different, would be the way I read it, they would be entitled to a certain portion of some of our Title I and special education funds. Well, so is the city of Murfreesboro, but they have a contract directly with TDOE, that they get passed through funds from the federal government, just like we have a direct contract. So I'm not sure if they're gonna classify these charter schools as a subrecipient, which would then put in some other restrictions. Nobody's given us that answer. Or are they gonna be a direct pass-through for those funds, just like, because technically we're a subrecipient of the state on these funds, so are we now gonna be the grantor? I think the cart got before the horse a little bit on some of these rules.
And we're gonna have to.
And so we're just
pay
kind of,
for it.
yeah, and so we've reached out to some other districts, but like I said, when we reach out to them, some of the larger, the Metros or the Shelbys, their structure's differently. So it just, from the accounting behind it, as much as I hate to say it, it's just gonna be different here. We're kind of the guinea pig, kind of like they said, they're the first in this area. So we're kind of building the cart as we go here, building the train as we go.
So I want to come back to super high level layman's conversation. I think I heard Dr. Sullivan say we're considering budgeting 10,000 per student. That's going to go. That's going to come from our 141 to the charter school.
Has to.
10,000 per student.
Whatever the per pupil
That's
is.
double. That's double the state contribution. So we will be doing local money. I'm hearing.
That's what I'm saying.
That's how we got to plan it.
The way the
So-
state law reads is, it's a four-parter. I gave you A, B, and C, but essentially part A is you have to share a portion of your state funds on the per pupil amount.
So just for Shane's benefit, when we're dialoguing and as you promote the charter schools later, you need to incorporate local funds are going to it. You were misinformed, just be aware, protect yourself next time. Local funds appear to be going
And it
until
says
we know otherwise.
it says we will adjust, the way I read, the way this says, word for word in state law, an LEA, which would be Rutherford County School System, shall adjust payments to charter schools at a minimum in October, February, and June, based on changes in the governing body subject to requirements of federal and state law. I'm assuming that's when they're going to want us to do the sure up of student enrollment to make sure that, kind of your question, of families coming and going. Again, for us here, that's going to look differently than it does in Metro. We're funded differently than we are in Metro or Shelby or some of those more metropolitan areas. That's just the way it says now.
So there's some $5 million that has to come from our fund balance to pre-fund the charter schools until we're paid sometime in the future.
And
Now it says,
take out operating budget, which I.
But it says 9.
We have to budget it in, Trey. We got to be looking.
Well, I want to be clear, we're not going to send them a check up front. We're not sending them one day one. We give it to
9
them
month.
in a minimum of 9 equal installments.
Your 12-month budget's going to have a $5 million contribution out with no revenue back in until future reconciliation.
And the revenue that does come back in will be the state's portion, because our local portion is not coming back. So the way I understood this, one thing I didn't realize is we're gonna have a new pass-through line item, and that makes sense. So that discourages wanting to be involved in this at all, just because we're having to get involved in that. I mean, I'm just saying from an administrative standpoint, it's taking on an extra task where we're having to front the money. So am I to understand it that if we don't hold the charter, the state does it, then the state's fronting all that money? We're just getting withheld our local portion for the money we're getting in total. Does that make sense to everybody? Let's say it was 70-30, 70% from the state, 30%, so $3,000 from that. We would be withheld per pupil the $3,000 when they send us our money.
Yes.
That's almost financially, cash flow speaking, a better scenario than having to front the whole 10 and get the 7 in return. So I have that clear, right? I'm trying to state where it's easier math.
I want to be clear, nothing is going to be sent on day one. So
of course,
it'll be over the course of 9 or 10 payments.
But this is a real issue. Funding-wise is why it's mattering to us. We have to anticipate what you might need to ask for and what's going to happen with your staff. All teachers, when they realize that we have to talk. You have to deal with that. We have to know what's going on and why we're having to do budgets this way for this coming year. We've never done this before. This is all brand new. The other one is, you don't know that you're not going to have multiple applications for the next 10 years in a row on this. So how far do we keep getting in this before there's a change? And we're fronting $5 million today, but we're probably going to front $50 million. And I'm just saying, we have to really look at, it discourages you from wanting to be involved. But then if you're not involved, it's the whole thing of how does this work with us? And our role in county commission is trying to know what everybody's doing that affects every citizen in our districts, that regardless of how they're being chose to be educated, we understand what's going on with our portion. They're getting the same money. It doesn't matter if it's public school or the public charter school. That money, the split, it's all the same. This is a matter of who's writing the checks and when.
I mean, the first line, local board of education shall allocate to the charter school an amount equal of state and local funds. And so that's strictly what we have to do as an LEA, which really is the commission, because we make the budget, y'all pass it. And so
It's our citizen.
it is, yeah. And I think the part I know we've been hard on it, Howard, but I believe in their model, we wouldn't have asked to improve them and authorize them. And so I believe in what they're doing. The funding aspect just kind of came as we're now in getting towards this. I think it was approved maybe a year and a half ago. Now we're getting towards actual
The
opening.
reality of it.
The reality of wow.
Trey, do you have a question or comment?
Yeah, a little confusion. So you're saying, Dr. Sullivan, that this is a public school?
Correct.
You said it was a private entity. Public or private?
It's public.
It's public.
It's public. So,
But for budgetary
No,
aspects.
no,
maybe
no,
for-
hold on, because we're talking about two separate things. From a legal entity,
Right,
they are not a county government.
right.
So that is different if we're gonna provide it. I'm not saying we should or shouldn't provide necessarily that. I wanna be that clear. I'm just trying to get facts tonight. It is very different where maybe they are getting public funding and they're receiving public schools, but from a legal entity, they are more of a nonprofit quasi-government than they are a county government like we are. There is a different set of rules that they operate under. They have their own board.
Right.
So just like when we send them their $5 million, or I'm just using a number, whatever that is, we don't approve their budget. We don't look at it from a line item perspective. They operate. I view it more like a nonprofit. I'm not an attorney, but kind of the way I view it. And correct me if I'm wrong, but they're not a government entity with an elected body, elected officials. They have a board appointed, similar to a private school, but you're getting public school funding, but they accept all kids, unlike the private school where a private school would limit based on certain factors. So they're a public school in the sense that they elect any kid can come. It's almost like a
A
not-for-profit.
nonprofit entity is probably.
but
closer.
are your students Rutherford County citizens?
They are supposed to be within.
They have to be, yes, it's in the charter language that they had to be within the district of Rutherford County.
So basically, we're going to spend the local money regardless.
Yeah.
Can I say something?
Please, yes, sir, please.
So if I look up ADA per student in Tennessee, Central Tennessee, it's gonna come up to around $10,000 per pupil. So what the charter receives is the same amount.
Yes.
It's just, like you said, it's funneling through Rutherford County. And it sounds like because this is year one, and if that money has to be fronted up front, that's where the struggle is. The money will come back, so year one is the real struggle. Once you get going, it wouldn't be.
Well, I think it's every year because the state funds us always when you're behind. And so I think what we're saying is, if you're gonna make us pass through this funding to wherever we're going for a public school student, let us fund the same level playing field as in, if we're gonna fund a year behind, if the state's gonna tell us we're funding you a year behind, then let us fund them a year behind. Or if the state's gonna say, fund them their current enrollment, then I want the state to fund us their current year enrollment.
Okay,
Good luck with that.
so
I can wish.
is Rutherford County taxpayers building the school, paying for the building of your school?
No.
So okay, so that's
Hold
how
on,
many?
hold on. Is any money of the allocation, because part of the state law does allow for fast growth stipends and capital money to go to go
I'm
to,
talking about Rutherford County taxpayers.
which is what I'm
From
saying,
coming
there's a
out of
local
budget.
portion that could eventually, I'm not saying
Good.
that that's what they'll spend the money. I'm saying that it does allow that we have to share fast growth stipends and capital expenditures, and I highlighted that to make sure I touched on
But
that.
Rutherford County taxpayers is not paying 100% of
No.
the building.
No.
Yours come out of
So
property
that's
tax.
tens of millions of dollars right there.
Tens of millions.
They will
Tens of
eventually
millions.
pay a portion,
A portion.
eventually.
That was one of the big selling points of the charter program, was the fact that we've been talking here, it's the capital projects that are the biggest expenses that we're gonna be looking at. We're talking about well over probably $1 billion after these, our 5-year plan was at 850 million, right?
Yep.
It'll be $1 billion soon. So the fact that what you're saying is correct, where they come in and it's almost a partnership, is we're not paying for that building. So we're getting seats filled without Rutherford County taxpayers funding the building. They have to fund that out of the $10,000.
Well, no, hold on,
Well, you
hold
say-
on. No, let me just read this directly out of the state law. It says allocations are based on 100% of the state and local funds received by the LEA, including because this is state and local funds now, including current funds allocated for capital outlay purposes, funds generated under the fast growth stipends, excluding proceeds for debt obligations associated with debt service. That's irrelevant. That's just saying when I go issue a bond, that I don't have to do the same share percentage as the city of Murfreesboro. But it does say that funds allocated local and state for capital outlay purposes, which we do for the school system here, and under the fast growth stipends, which so far we qualified even though there was no money available last year under TSA. We qualified, there was just no money left. The way I'm reading this, we would also have to share that on a percentage basis of the per pupil.
Okay, so we're sharing the state dollars.
Nope, it says allocations based on 100% of the state and local funds received by the LEA.
Because the state only funds 74% of it, the local funds 26%.
And so you're saying that we would or could fund a portion of their,
And the state would too, eventually.
and the state would too. So we're still saving tens of millions of dollars. No brainer to me.
Yeah, really, my question was just looking at, it's just gonna change the way we budget up front.
I think we're gonna have some challenges.
Yeah.
It's like we're the guinea pig.
Yeah.
Where this is the first one in a non-big metro area. So I think we're just going to, we have no choice to walk through that and figure it out.
And I'm glad you're so glad we're in front of this, because it sounds offensive, it sounds overly intrusive. So I'm glad you're thinking about it, because I think you could help budget.
You know, I don't want to lose sight. These are Rutherford County citizens
Yes, and the same.
that we're funding to be educated. Just want to make sure I understood that. It's Rutherford County citizens.
Correct.
The only other part I would add is that there is a bill, and I would be shocked if it doesn't pass. Right now, there's already a requirement that if we have underutilized space in the district school, a district-owned building, the charter school gets first right of refusal to that. There's an amendment to that bill going through that it will be at a decreased cost. And so there's county-owned property that's owned by the county that, just to be aware of, there's also in part of the state governor really allocated money for charter school construction that we would
It's
love
an
to have some
equitable facility
allocation.
fund.
Sure.
Yes.
The state of California does that as well. So if, for example, in the local area where we're at, Springs Charter School in Temecula, I know of some charters starting up. Springs hasn't done this, but some charters have started up where a school has empty classrooms every day because they've lost enrollment over time. So let's say it's 5 empty classrooms. A charter could utilize those classrooms at a reduced rate. It's kind of the same thing, so that instead of purchasing new land or renting a facility, they are using those empty classrooms to educate students under the charter. So they're essentially sharing that site with that school, within that school district, but still having their own charter, their own board and all of that. So it is very similar. It sounds a little scary, but it's utilizing empty space. The state probably, the legislation probably looks at it as, well, it's empty space, it's school building that was built, but it's not housing children. So let's utilize it with the charter students. Are you however you feel? Perhaps if that charter wasn't there, the students would be there. You can argue on both points for sure. But that's the mindset, utilizing the empty space so that they're not renting out a business center, they're utilizing an actual school and sharing the resources.
But a lot of you mentioned early on that your capital projects will come from loans and grants.
Correct.
So you're borrowing money from a bank?
Yeah, a financial institution of
And
some
then you
sort.
would
Pay it back with interest.
pay it back with interest?
Yes. And if there were a circumstance where Rutherford County, probably not in any time soon, but had empty classrooms that were under-enrolled in a certain area, which, yeah, isn't happening soon, but if it happened, then I guess the charters could bid on who gets first, dibs on these empty classrooms at a reduced rate, and there they would be housed. I think that potentially could happen in the future, not in the near future, but down the road.
Is Springs the only charter that we are chartered with? I'm using the wrong word. You used another word a moment ago.
We're authorizing.
Authorizing? They're the only
There's another one.
that we're choosing to authorize.
Yes.
They've met the the criteria that our BOE,
Our board approved them last spring, yes.
okay, that's a fact. It's been voted on.
Yes.
And then there's 2 that aren't authorized? or
There's one that is not authorized by us, it's authorized by the State Charter Commission. That's Rutherford Collegiate Prep.
And that would be the one
It's a
that,
different type, we don't pass through funds to them.
they would just withhold
Yeah.
our local portion, but they would be sending all the administrative work themselves. That's what I understand at this moment, so. This has been a wonderful conversation because the questions that we're looking at, that I was bringing up personally with it was, what do we need to think about budgeting wise that would be new and different? You know, one thing with Commissioner Gooch being on budget would be, what can we be talking about, new things, so that it's not hitting us at the same time we're dealing with everything? And I don't know that we have everything answered, but, you know, there's things I know now, like it's public that we're gonna have to front some money. It's public, we're gonna have pass-through money. So we're gonna have to look at the budget, we'll have a new line item, a new way that we're dealing with, just for us to get used to what it looks like. It is new for all of us. And I think this helps stop a lot of misinformation, because our job is funding. We're not anything else. The school board is everything else. We're just worried about how it's affecting funding, how the cash flow goes, so that we can understand how that deals with, you know, taxes and revenue collection. So, Shane, you've been great today to answer a lot of these questions. It's been terrific. I mean,
Thank you. I mean, we want this to be a positive partnership, and yeah, there are going to be some growing pains, and hopefully we work through it, and when we're having this discussion next year, maybe it won't sound as bad and as scary. If not, you know, we learn, and maybe we start going to our legislatures and making some changes. I agree, should be a level playing field, for sure. Yeah, we wouldn't want to be paid on the back end. Definitely don't want to sway that way, but yeah, we should be all paid up front, for sure. I totally agree with that.
And I challenge you to update your outreach to folks. Thank you for letting me say that to you publicly. You did a great job. And, Mike, thanks for chiming in. I know you stayed over.
And I'll say, I don't think anything in
I'll let
this.
Jimmy wrap us up in a moment.
I'll say one thing, I don't think as we go into the budget season, unless I'm missing something, and then Dr. Sullivan can correct me if I'm wrong, I think you hit the nail on the head as far as the commission being the funding body, but I don't think any, and this may be something that has to be addressed in the future, is I don't think anything in this touched the maintenance of effort law. And so that's gonna be a tough thing to navigate. That is probably gonna be the toughest thing for the commission, and as we set the tax rate and stuff, is gonna be the toughest thing for this body and the commission to decide, because
MOE plus.
we don't look at line item expenditures for the school system. That's gonna be up to the school board. The really tough part is gonna be setting that tax rate and looking at MOE as we move forward. I think that is gonna be the tough decision of how we work through that as a, you know, as a group and as partners here. But I don't believe that touched this, I don't believe this will touch that.
And that's what I wanted to finish on.
Okay.
And so as we're preparing our budget, we are gonna ask for growth of the penny, of course, the commission can do as they see, just the same exact funding penny that we got last year. We can budget, of course, that the commission only allocates maintenance of effort, but at that point, we will have added about 2,200 kids on the exact same funding for 2 years. So if, where we were able to build 30 million up into a fund balance and do something towards the elementary school, that's gonna be nearly impossible, because we're operating true operating expenses.
So you're
We don't expect to do it.
I just don't think I can do it every year.
heads up.
Every other
Like MOE plus the
Whatever the
value of
growth-
the penny.
Yeah, whatever, if we don't ask
And
for
again, I'm
the
glad for budget to be here as well.
yeah, thank you for bringing that. I mean, we can do it sometimes, but every year it's hard. I'm not doing it every year. I'm gonna do it every year.
but that is your anticipation at this time, would be the MOE plus growth of the penny. I mean, it's good to even be talking about that up front as we're going into budget season.
When Brian and I built it last year, we built it on a 3-year plan of being able to try to see it through, so.
Well, a lot of information, guys. Thank you again, Shane. Guys, thanks for joining. Laura and Sarah and
Aaron.
Kara, thanks for
Aaron.
joining and
thank you.
being available to contribute. I think we'll have to do this again. There's so much, whether it's through the joint meeting or you guys may have to talk to budget.
I think one thing that maybe, because if you came to the joint meeting in May, because
Okay.
the school system's budget will be talked about kind of in detail.
Okay,
And Shane,
I don't have a vote, that's just my recommendation.
I appreciate it, yeah.
And who's the other person that couldn't make it tonight?
Oh, it's Jared.
Jared McLeod.
Yeah. Is he
That's
more,
Jared
is he
as well.
more of an executive director of the?
He is the executive director.
That might be good that maybe Jared can make a future meeting to join you as well. All right, Ramel.
I have two quick things. It's not related to this one,
Okay, so let's,
Yeah, I want-
thank you. We have other business we can conduct. Thank you, Shelley. Thank you.
but I was a question for Dr.
Be
Sullivan.
in touch.
It's two quick questions.
So, yeah, nice to meet you. Thanks, Michael. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you, Dr. Halford. You muscled through all that.
Yeah.
Congratulations, my first question is, due to what happened recently last year at graduation at MTSU, are we looking at increasing security at those graduations?
We did last year, and we will again this year, so our contract with MTSU was almost 16,000 per school. It's astronomical.
And that was, I was going to lead it to my next question. It was brought to my attention that last year, the contract to host graduation was $10,000 or something. And now it's jumped up to almost $17,000 per school.
Yep.
Is there a reason why they are deciding to charge that amount?
Market rate. That's what we considered. We value our partnership with them, but I will also say that it jumped from about 7 or 8 the year before. And some things that we still challenge is we get charged for, I know it's small for the firms. They stay there for 2 weeks, but I pay for each site. But you also don't have anywhere else to go. So that's our challenge. But yes.
It was just brought to my attention, so I just wanted to ask that question because
Because of that, we allocated $10,000 to each high school to help them offset that cost. Our board was, and ourselves, very strong that it's a requirement. You have to have graduation. We should make the fundraiser for graduation. That's what was good about that.
Thank you.
Chairman, I have one follow-up.
Yes, sir.
I meant to say it earlier, our conversation here today has been so robust, it's hard to think of everything. It's almost like we're just going to continue to have more questions. Several of you were on public safety. I think we uncovered something that really needs to be discussed, which is what's the safety plan dealing with this? Because I think one thing we talked about, I know Commissioner Gooch was asking about, is it private entity, what are you reading? And there's some liability issues and what we can do. So now I feel like that top to my man, public safety's got to think about protecting students that aren't a part of, it's another entity altogether. And maybe that's a new discussion public safety has to think is, how do we make sure, what's our responsibility of making sure our citizens and our kids are safe as we move forward?
Did the state fund SROs at private schools? Okay, so this would be, the sheriff is right.
Correct. They're going to have to, and we've argued with them, so that's, they want us to fund it because they're an LEA or an RCS authorized school, and we've told them over and over again that is.
What does LEA stand for?
Local Education Agency. And so we have told them over and again that no, that if you want to fund one, that's got to come from the funding we send you. It's not our sheriff's department's responsibility to fund you out of somebody they'd be pulling out of duty somewhere else. So.
They did require it, though. They didn't say they would fund it for private entities, but I think the law kind of reads what they
The private have to fund that.
They have to have something in place.
Or they gotta have something.
And did I hear that they're considering an MOU with the sheriff's department? They may can work something out. I think I heard him say they're discussing an MOU.
They're discussing.
That's not that's between the sheriffs. All right.
Thank you.
Go on stage here for other business.
Yeah.
Why not?
Dr. Sullivan, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, and I'll discuss this further, but Dr. Sullivan, guys, was absent from our commission meeting because he was pursuing a national certification as a national superintendent, director of schools.
Did you pass?
I did. One of only 4 in the state or something in the country. The only national certified superintendent of schools in the state of Tennessee.
The third ever.
And how many are in the country though? Sure enough.
They do 25 every 2 years. So a couple hundred.
Is it in Hawaii?
Do what?
No, San Diego.
San Diego.
I don't think he would have acknowledged that to us, but I think it's a pretty big deal that he got the certification. Thanks for going.
It's my home district, so I'm
I
glad to
smell
get
a pay raise coming.
that. No, it's not. No, it's not part of my contract.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, I'm on it. So Dr. Sullivan's, correct me if I'm wrong, but pay is attached to census and some other items. And I'm under the impression, I believe I have it correctly, that his increase in pay, he's donating to a foundation he and his wife have begun. So he's given his personal pay raise back to the community.
As a scholarship.
As a scholarship.
Fantastic.
Is your son Decker?
Yeah.
Sorry, Dr. Sullivan.
You're fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it is weird. Just about every director of schools contract is tied to whatever percentage rate each teacher gets. It feels very weird to advocate for that. We decided that we wanted to get back right when he got diagnosed because the community was so good to us. And so we're donating it back for a kid or multiple kids that had a critical illness. And so it hits home right now because he goes Thursday to meet with his oncologist, and it's home right now. So, but we're excited. We'll hopefully be able to give the first at least 3, hopefully more of those out middle of May. So excited to do it.
Is it going, I'm sorry, is it going through your family or is there an agency or?
No, we're actually, so I will take my salary and donate it back to the County Board of Education, and then that way it's a nonprofit that can give. Yep. Yep, that's what we're doing. So, yep, it's fun.
That's no small thing.
That's not.
With their cost of living and everything skyrocketing is no small thing. To be absolutely commended.
But he did not,
Yeah, I didn't know you were gonna
You
do that.
didn't know,
Yeah,
no.
I didn't know you were gonna do that. So,
Thanks for letting me embarrass you, but I wanted to.
no, yep, of course.
Any other business?
If I could say one thing, tomorrow's a big day. We've talked about money a lot here tonight, and tomorrow's a big day for the county. One of the biggest ones I can ever remember, our bill on alternative taxes, alternative to property taxes, is before a subcommittee tomorrow afternoon at 3:30. And if we fail, alternative funding will not be available to us. And some of the plans that have been talked about will be put in jeopardy. Where's that money going to come from? So it's a big day for us. You guys, we're trying to put a contingent together. If you can attend that, we'll be leaving here at 1 o'clock, or gathering about 1 o'clock tomorrow. So if you can attend and help us with that process, let me know before you leave tonight. It's not important that all of us go, but it's important that a number of us go, and we've got 5 or 6, I think, that have said they're going to be able to go, and if you can go, let me know. It's a huge, huge day. We have reached a point to where we can't do anything else. Charlie Baum, one of our representatives, is carrying that bill against tremendous pressure from some peers. And Charlie is to be hugged and caressed and thanked for doing that. And once again, what happens tomorrow is not the final result. If we fail at the subcommittee, it's over. If it passes the subcommittee, it goes before full committee. And that may be even a huge challenge for us to get out of that committee, but one step at a time. Tomorrow is a big day for us. So be in and just constant thoughts tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow night, as that committee process here's testimony from both.
Will they vote tomorrow or is it?
The subcommittee. Thank you. Any other comments? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, everyone.